Are you a man or another gender and you're interested in men's mental health? Well, today I wanted to make a very open episode from my own personal experience. Again, I'm not a mental health professional or anything like that, on men's mental health in my view and what I've learned through my own challenges that I want to share with you and what's really helped me. And if you stay until the end, I have an extra point for you then as well. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to let you know that if you want to keep up to date with all the latest episodes, never miss any, and get a free weekly confidence tip, all you got to do is click in the link in the show notes below, and you can subscribe to our free weekly newsletter. Okay, so again, I want to be very clear that I'm not a mental health professional or anything like that. I just, I've got some coaching certifications and various qualifications in different things. Yeah, I want to be very clear on that because I know we've all got different backgrounds, and this is just my own personal experience. I'm very passionate about the subject of men's mental health. I do see a lot of challenges in it, and we see some very, obviously, the worst case scenarios come from it. So I feel like I really want to speak up on this subject because I've had lots of challenges and I think there's times where things haven't helped me and I really want to give my guidance on what has helped me, right? And I think if you can share, other people can relate to you, right? And a lot of us is scared of putting ourselves out there, but I don't want to be scared of putting myself out there because that would be selfish. I want to share what I'm feeling because it may help someone else, right? So I've had a lot of challenges up and down in my life. Like I've had anxiety, I've had, being really down, I've had high levels of stress. I used to have a horrible, horrible episodes of it was some kind of like symptoms of what they term as derealization. And I had a friend who actually got diagnosed with it. Derealization is when you start seeing things and it feels like they're not real, like you're in a different place. And I remember having those episodes when I was like 12 or 13. Wasn't officially diagnosed. It unfortunately mental health wasn't a big thing then. It's early 2004, maybe that sort of year. Young, very young sort of teenager in school. 33 now, so that was almost 2 decades ago. And yeah, it was really, really scary. And they just thought I was tired, which kind of showed the ignorance to the situation, really. Um, but yeah, like people weren't educated, and it was just terrifying. I had panic attacks. I had to pinch myself. I've had times when I've really hurt myself mentally and physically. And yeah, like even the last couple of years, there's been some tough things I've really had to overcome or work through. And if I'm honest, sometimes I can have bad days and it can be a little bit of a challenge to have the energy to do things. And I know how to sit in myself and process things now. And again, this is just me sharing from me. I'm not going to generalize. I'm just going to share for what's working for me and my story. And the problem I find is there's sometimes too much information that we get confused. So I found what it's about understanding what works for me on my mental health journey, right? And I saw something the other day, and I support my team. Like I support a team called Yeovil. They're a non-league team, and that's my hometown in England. And we had a captain who unfortunately took his own life a few years ago. A leader. I didn't watch him much a few years ago, but I saw him play once or twice. He was a leader, this quite like charismatic guy, good footballer. And yeah, he had all these issues going on in the background. And it reminded me the other day when I was watching them because we kind of did a bit of a talk about it or kind of had some banners up when I went to watch them live. And it just really encouraged me to kind of talk about this and my journey. And I know like sometimes things get a little bit controversial when you talk about mental health. So again, you can only share from a place of where you've been and what you've experienced. Like there's so much theory, there's so much textbook. So I just really want to be real once again. And I'm gonna just share with you what I believe are the three biggest challenges for me personally, and that I've come across when I've friends have opened up to me. I'm not obviously would never like tell someone's personal thing, because when someone personally shares with me, that's completely confidential. Yeah, just across what I see, I'm going to share kind of from my point of view the top 3 challenges I've had. Right. Okay. So the first thing, I believe that's a challenge in men's mental health is there's a lot of positivity, personal growth, like have an attitude of gratitude, like feel good, great, keep working, put the hours in, grind, all these kind of things, even if you feel bad, right? Whilst I think there's a degree of not sitting and wallowing in sadness all the time, if I also do believe, and again, like if you've got a serious mental health challenge, obviously goes without saying, go see a professional, right? But what I find is we're not taught how to do deeper feeling things to process these. For years, I went through I've had, and I'm still working for it. I've had unprocessed grief. I lost lots of family members when I was younger, and I never felt it. And it wasn't until the last couple of years when I felt it, and my body went into shock at times. The amount of, and it was situations, job losses, relationship, dating losses, right? That were all stored up and they all came out. And I think the challenge is we're not taught how to feel it, particularly as guys, right? Now, one of the most beautiful things I've discovered, I'll just come off a session today, is somatic breath work. And what does somatic breath work? You may have heard of me talk about it before. I just want to emphasize it. It's about breathing into your body so that you feel what you need to. You go into maybe trauma stored in the body. And trauma doesn't just mean like you're attacked or something. It can be moments with significant emotional events, right? Which usually obviously are disempowering emotions like anxiety, anger, stress, like loss or something like that, right? So that's one of the challenges I think. It's all good, I think it's great to look forward, but it's also important to feel. So I find it's really good to get a balance between the two. The second thing is trust and judgment issues. This has been a huge one that I've been challenged with, right? I've when I've opened up, like I have an outstanding coach right now who is so good. He holds a space for me. I can talk to him, and he just listens, and he's there 100%. Right. I believe when I've opened up to someone, and if they're not fully present, or they're thinking of what to say, or they're just projecting their issues onto you, or that they end up using it against you, which has also happened to me, it causes a lot of trust and judgment issues. Like, even when people were like well intentioned. So, what I would suggest on that is finding someone who's really trained to listen. Now, who's really well trained to listen? You may know someone and you might trust them like a good friend. That's outstanding. But don't just settle for talking to someone who's not a good listener or you don't feel safe with them. That's what I would say. Like, we're taught to reach out for help, but sometimes that's one thing I would say. And I agree, right? I would also say, and sometimes you've got to be honest with someone who may or may not be a good listener, but like maybe what something they're doing is hurting you. So you just got to be honest. But if you really want someone to listen and hold space for you, make sure you reach out to the right kind of person. And maybe it might take a little bit of experimentation if you like booked a therapist and you don't like the first one, but maybe you like your second choice or the second person you went to. That's okay. And be honest. Do you want a male, female, or another gender to work with? It's completely up to you, right? You've got a choice in the matter who you work with. Okay. So I think that's really important. Finding someone you can trust, right? I think it's a bit of an issue because like people would have betrayed your trust, particularly in the whole like dating relationship thing. That's where the biggest wounds can come. You can be really honest with someone, and if it doesn't work out, they could hurt you. I've heard people do that to each other. It's not very nice, right? I've had it on not a major scale, but like a minor scale happen to me as well. Of like I shared something that was quite important to share, and I felt like I wanted to trust her. Um, and yet she didn't share it with the world. Well, I don't know. She could have done, but I doubt she did. But anyway, she brought it back up against me, like from something later, and that's actually really, really hurtful. You know, and someone tells me something, I'm not going to use it against them. Right? That they told me that in trust. And I think that's a challenge when we're telling someone something in confidence, it's used against us or it's shared beyond our trust. That's really going to stop you from talking. But be assured, like there are people who listen and they're professionals, like somatic coaches, therapists, other coaches out there who will listen and hold the space for you, right? Okay. And then the third one, conditioning of what we should be, right? There's so much of this around. There's like these hustle, like these guys with jets on Instagram. You're like, oh, I bet they never cry or get upset about their emotions or care about their emotions. Maybe I shouldn't either. Right. I've got a couple of great role models who are like that. They're very good at making money. And what I learn is to like look at their way of business, maybe, but probably not their way of dealing with emotions, right? Because they might have be an absolute mess under the surface, right? But just very strategic and clever and making money. Um, but yeah, like we're conditioned a lot from what we see. So make sure you take some time away from whatever you're listening to, whatever you're looking at on social media, and actually listen to you and connect to you. So I've got a bonus one I really want to share, just a real insight as well that I want to share. But just before I get onto that, I want to mention as again that if you want to keep up to date of all these episodes, never miss any, and get a free confidence tip every week, all you got to do is click in the show notes below to subscribe to our free weekly newsletter. Okay, my bonus one I really want to say is surround yourself with a group or a mentor, right? I've, as a man, I've got a men's coach do a lot of deep men's work, and he's learned a lot from experience of some really great guys out there. He's been mentored by some really amazing figures in sort of like men's workspace, which is awesome, and he shared it on to me. Or like men's groups, like I've been in groups where you can confidentially share stuff, right? So that's one of the most effective things I find. Like it links to my point about finding someone you can trust. But yeah, find yourself a really good mentor or a group to be around as well. I just really want to emphasize that. So that's what I got for you today. Again, that was just my share on some of the challenges I see around men's mental health, whether you're a man or identify as another gender, then this is for you. This is just kind of my insight. Again, like I say, I'm not a professional or anything like that. I'm just sharing my own experience and what's worked for me and what I've experienced, and being very honest in this perspective because I'm very passionate about this area. The amount of men suffering in silence out there is too much, and we've seen what happens with things like suicide and hurt and the impact it's had onto other people. So I felt really cool to share this today. So that's what I got for you today. I appreciate you for being here. You're improving other people's lives by being the best you. And remember, you're in control of your own self-esteem and confidence.